name is Jessica Wicking and I'm a member of Christ Central Church, Penge. Psalm 119 verse 105 says, "Your word is a lamp to my feet." And I would just like to share some instances where God did that for me. 40 years ago I went to church for the first time. Now I didn't want to go, but my neighbour Barbara kept asking me, and in the end I went. Well, the first scripture that I ever heard was in a song, and it was Psalm 42 verses 1 and 2, and it said, "As the deer pants for the water, so my soul pants after you." Now, I didn't understand what it meant, and I didn't know what it meant, but it made me cry. And I believe God was speaking straight to my soul. I believe that God knew that my soul was thirsty, but I didn't know it. So God has given me light bulb moments, scriptures that have changed the way I think, the way I act, the way I lived. And I remember, this is all as a very new Christian, and I remember reading about the Israelites in the desert, in the wilderness for 40 years because of their disobedience. And I thought to myself, when I read it, oh, that's Numbers 14 verses 1 to 33. And I remember when I read it, I was actually horrified that they spent 40 years in the wilderness because of their disobedience. And I remember thinking, oh Lord, please don't let that happen to me. I do not want to waste years going the wrong way. I want to stay on your path. And I believe that he answered this prayer in using another circumstance, which I'm now going to show to you now. So as a new Christian, and I was hurting very deeply because my dear friend, I just found out she was having an affair, or she had an affair with my then first husband. And I used to have to pass her house taking my little boy to nursery, and I remember thinking as I looked at her house, I will never walk up that path again. I will never knock on that door ever again. Well, famous last words, because I was reading Ephesians chapter 4 verses 26 and 27, and it literally jumped out at me, and it was, "Do not let the sun go down on your anger, because you'll give a mighty foothold to the devil." And I felt God say, I want you to walk up that path, knock on that door and say, "I forgive you." Well, I did have a bit of an argument there because I knew I couldn't forgive her naturally. It hurt too much. But I did feel God say, if you don't obey me in this, you will never really know me, and you'll always struggle in your spiritual life. So, the hardest thing ever. But I walked up that path, I knocked on that door, and I said to her, "I forgive you." And then God reminded me of that prayer that I'd prayed about the Israelites. So that was a lesson in obedience, I believe, and how God changed my attitude and my heart. Also, in Kings, it's 2 Kings chapter 4 verses 1 to 7. That's about the widow's oil, and how all she had was a jar of oil which God just kept refilling, and God multiplied it until she had no more jars left to fill. and I want to testify that God did something similar for me. So, as a new Christian, single parent, 2 little boys, money was tight. And one particular Sunday, I was watching the offering box come round, and I'm thinking, oh, what can I put in, because I haven't got much money. I've only got a £1 note, 10 shilling note, and some change in my purse, which I didn't know how much it was. So I'm thinking, I'll put in some change. And then I felt God say, put the notes in. And I said, God, I can't put the notes in. That's all I've got. It's Sunday now. I don't get my child allowance till the Thursday. This is all I've got to live on. Put the notes in. So I said, look, God, I can't. Look, I tell you what, I'll put £1 in. Put the notes in. Oh God. What will I live on? We need bread and milk, and I need food for the boys. And also, I was a heavy smoker. So I thought, how will I manage without cigarettes? I didn't know what to do. Anyway, by this time the box had come to me, and so before I could change my mind, I put the notes in. So that just left me with the change in my purse. As soon as I did that and saw the box move away, I was filled with absolute panic. Oh God, what have I done? How am I going to manage? I haven't got anyone I can borrow off of. I'm a heavy smoker. How will I manage without cigarettes? I was just panic-stricken. God said to me, trust me and I will provide. Well, I had to trust him because I didn't have anything to fall back on. But anyway, I'd like to testify right now that our God is a miracle God, because in my purse the change never emptied. And so from the Sunday to the Thursday, I bought the bread I needed, the milk I needed, and the cigarettes that I needed. And I'd just like to say that God did speak to me about cigarettes later on, but he knew I was a new Christian and I was a baby spiritually, and you can't run before you can walk. And as I say, God did speak to me wonderfully about smoking, but that's another story. So in the end, I was opening my purse and I dare not look, and I was just putting my hand in my purse and taking out the money. And that lasted till the Wednesday evening, because I was getting my child allowance on the Thursday. Well, on the Wednesday evening, I tipped the purse out and I actually counted my change, and it looked like the same amount as what I had on Sunday. But as I say, I didn't know exactly how much it was. And hindsight's a wonderful thing, because after I tipped it out and counted it, it just spent. It didn't refill. So, I often think, perhaps if I hadn't counted it Wednesday night, who knows? Well, anyway, so that is our amazing God. So I just want to say, before I was a Christian, I was bitter, cynical, lonely, unloved, and distrustful. But through Jesus' wonderful, willing sacrifice on the cross, my life is so different now. Through his terrible death on the cross, my sins are forgiven. I'm reunited with God. He has given me robes of righteousness, and he's changed my life completely. I have a husband who loves me. I have 4 children, 6 grandchildren. I have 4 sisters, a niece and a nephew who have come to know and love the Lord for themselves. And before my mum died, she also became a born-again Christian. So I had the joy and the hope of seeing her in heaven. So I just want to say, it's no wonder that we Christians rejoice in our God and we worship him with all our hearts. So until we can do that, when we're all together again, I just want to say Deuteronomy 33 verse 12, may the beloved of the Lord dwell in security and in the safety of the space between his shoulders. That's not quite literally, but that's what it means. So God bless you all. Bye.